When people reach their 50s or 60s, the financial advice usually gets very conservative. We hear things like reduce your risk. How risk adverse or risky are you? Move your money into safer environments. Focus on mutual funds and IRAs, your 401ks. And those things absolutely have their place. But here's an interesting question. What if someone over 60 still wants to build income, or better yet, needs to? What if they still want something tangible instead of just some numbers on the statement? And what if they want to try something new? Well, that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about actually starting your investment journey after the age of 60. So we're going to talk about that today on this episode of Relax, I Got This, Embracing Life After 60. In today's world, older adults face major transitions like downsizing, relocating, or modifying their homes to age in place, all while embracing life after these changes. As a senior home advisor and seasoned realtor, Robin McCoy guides these decisions with care and thoughtful planning, helping create a vibrant future. Welcome to Relax, I Got This, Embracing Life After 60 with me, your host, Robin McCoy. Hi, and welcome back to Relax, I Got This, Embracing Life After 60. You know, today I want to talk about something that surprises a lot of people. And it's really just this. What about starting a real estate investing journey after you turn 60 years old? How about that? Here's the honest part. I've been in real estate for over 18 years. I've helped clients buy investment properties. I've helped sellers sell investment properties. I've helped investors evaluate deals. And yet even I bought into some of the myths about real estate investing. Personally, I didn't want to be a landlord. It sounded like a lot of work. Putting the money down that is required for an investment property, dealing with tenants. Am I getting too old to start doing that? Not that 60 is old. However, we start to get a little bit more conservative or risk averse, if you will, as we get older, because we know we need to have funds to retire on and to survive in these later years. So I want to talk a little bit about that, and we're going to talk about some of those myths that I mentioned, because I want you to start thinking about what is possible, right? What is possible? Not what should I do, what shouldn't I do, but open your mind up to what may be possible for you. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my personal story here. Recently, I decided to do something that I seriously never considered before. I have an investment in apartment building here in Dallas as part of a group investment. And I liked that because it's kind of hands off, and what happens, happens. And then in a few years, I'll get my return. So I have that. Just kind of sits over there and does its thing. But what I did, and it closed this week, is I bought an investment property. I bought a building, and by myself, right? Not with a group of people or anything like that. It is just Robin. And part of it that really surprises people is where it is. It's in Carthage, New York. Now, where the heck is Carthage, New York? It is way north. It is all the way up in the state of New York. It is by Fort Drum, which is a military base, and it is currently covered in snow. So, give you an idea. Now, when I told people that, the reactions came quickly. New York? Why not here? Can't you find something here? Did you even go see it? Are you planning to move there? No, I'm not planning to move there. I didn't buy it because it's close by. I didn't buy it because it's a pretty building. I bought it because it's an investment. It's a four-plex that produces income. And here's the part that makes people laugh a little bit. The property is not cute and it is not sexy. But what it is 4 rent payments arriving every month. And that is what's sexy. So what I want to do is go over some of the myths that people feel is around investing, and many of the ones that I too believed in myself. First myth, you have to live nearby. Now, years ago, this was mostly true. If you owned rental property, you were probably the one mowing the lawn and fixing the sink and collecting the rent. Today, that's just simply not the case. Many investors own property in cities that they have never visited. And you can have local contractors. You can have property managers. You can have online rent collection. You can have digital lease agreements. Technology has completely changed the game. And sometimes, as in my case, the best opportunities are not in your own backyard. Invest where the numbers make sense, not just where you live. Invest where the numbers make sense, not just where you live. Now, in my case, I had somebody say, couldn't you find something here? No, this is a four-plex that I paid less than $250,000 for. A four-plex in Dallas, at a minimum, is $500,000. Okay, so sometimes the numbers work better somewhere else. Okay, so while I would love to buy something here in Dallas, the numbers didn't work for me. However, in Carthage, New York, they did. So sometimes the numbers make sense when they're not in your backyard. Myth number 2, the property has to be cute and sexy and pretty. Well, this is, I think, one of the biggest mental shifts people have to make. You're used to thinking about homes emotionally. I'm going to live there. I want it to look pretty for my neighbors. I need a beautiful kitchen, perfect design, open concept, great curb appeal, all those things. But an investment property is different. You're not buying it for Instagram. You're buying it for income. Some of the best performing properties are actually pretty basic. They're clean, they're functional, and they meet a need. They aren't necessarily glamorous, and that's okay. Because again, the real beauty in investment property is consistent rent showing up in your bank account. Let's go back to the property I just purchased in New York. Aesthetically, it is not pretty. It's not. It needs some work on the exterior. It needs new siding. It needs a few things, right? And yet, it stays fully rented. And it generates 4 rents every month, because it meets the need of the community of Carthage, New York. And that is what is important. It's meeting the need for housing in that community, and it doesn't need to be beautified. I had somebody ask me, well, do you think you would do something that is, or turn it into an Airbnb or something? Absolutely not. That is not the need I'm looking to meet. I am not looking to meet something where people are traveling to the Finger Lakes and need a place to stay. That is not, and I don't want it to have to make it look cute. I want functional property that can stay rented and generate income each and every month for me. So sometimes being pretty is not a requirement. Myth number 3, you have to manage it yourself. Now, I know I never fell under this myth. I am 100% all in on property managers. Yes, they charge you monthly rent. It's usually about 10%. 10% I have found is pretty much the going rate to manage your property. And for me, I'm all in, right? I am all in on 10%. People think they have to manage it themselves. And managing a rental property means getting calls at midnight because the water heater broke or the heat went out, or like at my house that happened, a pipe burst and now there's a flood. And yes, that can happen if you choose to manage it yourself. But many, many, many investors, especially if you are out of town, hire property managers. And a good property manager is going to handle tenant screening. They're going to handle the rent collection. They're going to handle the maintenance. They're going to handle the repairs. They're going to handle the communications between tenants. In many cases, the owner simply reviews the reports, makes sure everything looks good, and collects the income, right? Now, I'm going to use a story that my mother-in-law had. I like property managers, 1, because they handle all that stuff, but 2, it keeps me at arm's length from the tenants. So I don't get emotionally involved with them and their lives, right? I let the property manager do that. My mother-in-law and father-in-law years and years and years ago had bought a duplex up in Kansas. And And they just had it for years and years. And at one point, my father-in-law passed away and my mother-in-law still had it. My brother-in-law would go over and make repairs. And there was one tenant in there, long-term, been there forever, was paying way below market rent because my mother-in-law just never wanted to raise the rent on him. He was a good, consistent tenant, and she never raised his rent. Then the other half had seen some turnover over time, and that's normal, right? But she had somebody in there who was behind on the rent and played upon her emotions. She's a 70, 80-year-old woman who lives outside of Kansas. She lived out of town. She lived here in Dallas. And she played upon her emotions. And I know I'm behind in the rent. I have to go have surgery. I told my dad if I don't live through the surgery to pay you first. Now, that may all have been true. But my mother-in-law was then emotionally involved in this story. And that was not good for her. It was not good for her investment. And it really ultimately wasn't good for the tenant. So that got handled and all of those things. But these are the sorts of things that can happen when you're managing your own property. Because one, you have an attachment to the property, and now you have an attachment with the tenant. So I'm all in on property managers. We Are One Heart is a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to bridging the gap between the needs and resources of low-income seniors and veterans. Rooted in compassion and love, our mission is to provide housing, living assistance, and access to critical resources that ensure dignity and support for the elderly in underserved communities. At the heart of We Are One Heart's work is the belief that every individual shares a common humanity, a heart connected through love and care. We are committed to creating a future that honors those who have shaped the past by offering programs and services that enhance their quality of life. For more information or to donate, visit wa1h.org. That's wa1h.org. Myth number 4, I'm too old to start investing. Now, this one may be a pretty common belief. And when I say old, I don't mean that 60 years old is an old person. That's not what I mean. However, sometimes we think investing is a young person's game, right? People think it is something you should have started in your 30s. But the reality is many people over the age of 60 actually bring advantages to investing. They have more life experience. They are less impulsive. They are often more patient. And they have something that younger investors may still be trying to figure out, and that is clarity about what they want their money to do. Okay? So in my case, I want my money to make me money to live on after retirement. That is what I want this money to do. I have had the down payment, was in some mutual funds and things like that, and they were doing well. They were doing a decent return, right, over time. I can take some of that same money and I can move it over here, and it's going to make more money over that same amount of time. It's just sitting in a piece of real estate. Now, this piece of real estate is not necessarily going to be known for its increase in value. This area just doesn't increase in value just because of where it is. The money in this and the advantage in this is just the stable rental income over time, right? That's where this becomes the good part of the investment. So being very clear about what you want your money to do. And I want mine to fund my life over the next 30 or 40 years. That's what I want it to do. And myth number 5, real estate just isn't a safe investment. Because on the outside, we see the market go up and down, right? We see it, should I sell? Should I buy? Buyer's market, seller's market. In this case, this is the long play, right? You're not going to buy, unless you're flipping, which is a whole other conversation. If you're going to buy and hold, you're going to hold this for a period of time, right? So first of all, I want to say that every investment has risk. And I am not here to tell you what your level of risk is and how risk averse or you are or not. And I'm not necessarily here to give you financial advice. I am here to give you my experience and how this has changed a lot of the perspective that I have on it. So every investment is going to have some sort of inherent risk. Stocks have risk, mutual funds have risk, even cash can lose value due to inflation, right? So real estate isn't risk-free, but it does have some of the unique advantages that maybe some of the others don't. It is a tangible asset. I could travel to Carthage, New York, and I can put my hands on that building. It is tangible. It produces income. There are 4 units that are occupied that are paying rent every month. So it is producing income, and people always need a place to live. Always need a place to live. That doesn't mean that every deal is good, but it does mean that real estate historically has been one of the ways that people build long-term wealth. Now, I have some clients here in Dallas, and their father, years and years and years ago, would buy little houses over in East Dallas. And this is years ago, and he bought them very inexpensively because it was probably in the 60s or 70s, something like that, and he would buy these houses. Now, he has passed, but these houses have gone and stayed in the family, and he had, 2 for this child and 2 for this child and 2 for this child. So these kids now have these investment properties in their name, and they are worth a lot more money today than they were when he bought them. So it is long-term wealth is where real estate comes in. So again, this is not me telling you to go buy a rental property. This is not telling you to go take all your money out of your stocks and go put it into real estate. But it is, I do hope that it is just creating some curiosity about what may be possible for you. What do you want? If you are my age, if you are in your 60s and you are wondering what you want the next 30 or 40 years to look like, I would welcome you to think about it. Ask yourself some questions. Be truthful with yourself and any spouses, partners that might be involved in the decision. I mean, if you're listening to this and you're over 60, you've probably been told that this stage of life is about slowing down and protecting what you have. And there is a lot of wisdom in that. But curiosity does not have to stop, okay? Learning does not have to stop. And an opportunity doesn't disappear just because you have a few more candles on your cake and a few more years under your belt. Somebody is going to buy that investment property. Somebody's going to buy that four-plex in Carthage, New York. It's either me or it's somebody else. So real estate investing may or may not be right for you. Every single situation is different. But what I've learned recently is this. Sometimes the only thing standing between us and a new opportunity is the story we've been telling ourselves for years. And I'm talking to myself in the mirror right now. A story like, oh, I'm too old to get started on something like that. Oh, it sounds really complicated. I'm really not the investing type. That's really for someone else. Meanwhile, the truth is that you have something incredibly valuable right now that you didn't have decades ago. You have experience. You have some perspective. Maybe you've got a little bit better financial situation so that it can make sense. And you have the ability to ask better questions. Ask better questions. So, again, I just welcome, I hope you give yourself the opportunity of curiosity, so that if real estate investing has ever crossed your mind, don't dismiss it because of one of these myths. Learn about it, ask questions, run numbers. Because sometimes it's just not about slowing down. Sometimes it's about doing something you never thought you would. It's embracing life after 60. So thank you so much for tuning in and listening to kind of my stream of consciousness here. I just hope that it was beneficial to you and you might share it with somebody else that you know. And again, I welcome the opportunity to chat with anyone if they are, interested in learning more. So Again, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Relax, I Got This, Embracing Life After 60. Please like, share, and comment, and let's keep the good word going. We'll see you next time. Thank you for joining me on Relax, I Got This, Embracing Life After 60. I know that time is our greatest asset, and I appreciate the time that you spend with me. If you're finding the information on this podcast useful, please subscribe to the channel on your favorite platform so that you never miss another episode. Don't forget to go to our website where you will find additional resources, downloads, and coaching programs. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on Relax, I Got This, Embracing Life After 60.